Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Polls open in the UK. Surveys show that the centre-left Labour Party is set for a big win that would end 14 years of Conservative government. Foreign ministers of India and China meet on the margins of SCO Summit in Kazakhstan, discuss about resolution of their undemarcated border. And India's victorious cricket team returns home after winning the T20 World Cup in Barbados. Thousands of fans welcome the players at New Delhi Airport. Voting has begun in the United Kingdom's parliamentary election. Voting in 650 constituencies across England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland began at 0600 GMT and will continue till 2100 GMT. Millions of voters across the UK will exercise their franchise to elect their lawmakers and choose the country's next government. 326 seats are required to get the majority. Early results are expected by Friday morning local time. Meanwhile, thousands of people opposed to the far-right National Rally Party in France demonstrated in the country's capital, Paris, on Wednesday. France is going for a parliamentary runoff election this weekend. Marine Le Pen's national rally came out well ahead in last Sunday's first round of vote after President Emmanuel Macron's gamble on a snap election backfired. French mainstream parties are trying to block the far right. More than 200 candidates from across the political spectrum opted out of the election to clear the path for whoever was best placed to defeat the far right party's candidate in their voting district, in a process known as the Republican Front. Amid all the speculations, US President Joe Biden vowed to stay in the 2024 presidential race during a call with campaign staff on Wednesday. He insisted in his meeting with his party's lawmakers and governors of states to show that he is fit for re-election despite a shaky debate performance last week. Biden told worried members of his campaign team that he was not going anywhere. He said in an email, and I quote, "No one is pushing me out. I'm not leaving. I'm in this race to the end," unquote. Biden met virtually and in person with 24 governors and the mayor of Washington, D.C. on Wednesday to reassure them. The White House said that Biden is not contemplating stepping down as presidential candidate.
What I can say is the president is moving forward. He's moving forward as being president. He's moving forward with his campaign, as his campaign has been very, very clear about that. That's what I can speak to, and that's what I can say, and that is the president's focus. The president's focus is how does he continue to do that work, and anything else that we're hearing or that's being reported is absolutely false.
After a discussion with Biden, the governors of the states of New York, Minnesota and Maryland said that they will stand with him. Biden's campaign said that the president reiterated his determination to defeat Donald Trump at the ballot box in November and discussed about the importance of electing Democrats up and down the ballot.
We've served when Donald Trump was president, and the threats to our nation were real. And so those concerns are real to us. And what we understand was a Trump presidency was chaos, destruction. A Biden presidency was dealing with COVID, using the science, investing in infrastructure, and working to the middle class. And all of us are trying to figure out and just want to make sure as governors we're on the front line of many of these.
It was a great conversation with the president and the vice president because it was honest. It was candid. I think that we always believe that when you love someone, you tell them the truth. And I think we came in and we were honest about the feedback that we were getting. We were honest about the concerns that we were hearing from people. And we were also honest about the fact that as the president continued to tell us and show us that he was all in.
Came together tonight to listen to President Biden tell us in his own words what his plans were. I'm here to tell you today, President Joe Biden is in it to win it. And all of us said we pledged our support to him because the stakes could not be higher. We will stand with the president as we fight that force being Donald Trump.
Right, moving on, in Nepal, all 8 ministers representing the CPN-UML in Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachand's ruling coalition have resigned. The ministers handed over their resignations to Prime Minister Prachand on Wednesday. After a 24-hour deadline given by the CPN-UML party expired, the key ally of the Prachanda-led government walked out of the government. The party had given a one-day ultimatum to Prime Minister Prachand to step down from the post, which it called a respectful exit. After Prime Minister Prachand did not resign during the deadline, all CPN-UML ministers submitted their resignation collectively to the Prime Minister on Wednesday. CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli had sent a letter to Prime Minister Prachand withdrawing his party's support to the government, saying that the initiative to form a new government was taken with the aim of providing political stability with the formation of a government of national consensus. Signs of renewed activity emerged on Wednesday in the quest for a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas in the 9-month-old conflict. This development follows Hamas's confirmation that it has exchanged some ideas with mediators in an effort to halt the aggression. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office said in a statement that Israel is studying the document. Egypt, Qatar and the United States have all been trying for months now to secure a truce and the release of 120 remaining hostages in Gaza, but no deal has been done so far. Hamas says that any deal must end the conflict and bring about a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. For its part, Israel insists that it will only accept a temporary pause in fighting until Hamas is eradicated. In a solemn testament to the horrors of the 7th October 2023 attacks by Hamas, a makeshift museum was unveiled at a farm called Nir Oz in Israel. An Israeli soldier unveiled the museum. He invited the world to bear witness to the horrors and recognize the museum's role in preserving the truth. The museum's collection of 1,650 burnt vehicles stands as a testament to the terror unleashed on that day. Each car tells a story of loss and survival in the face of unrelenting violence. In other news, Hurricane Beryl churned menacingly over Jamaica on Wednesday afternoon local time. The hurricane caused widespread damage in the island's capital, Kingston. Flooded roads challenged pedestrians as police cleared debris. A fallen airport sign underscored its impact on tourism. Residents navigated flooded streets amid fallen trees and power lines, with water flowing down roadsides, highlighting the storm's lasting impact. The loss of life and damage wrought by Hurricane Beryl underscores the consequences of a warmer Atlantic Ocean, which scientists cite as a telltale sign of human-caused climate change fueling extreme weather that differs from past experience. Hurricane Beryl made landfall in Cuba as well on Wednesday on its way across the Caribbean, leaving a trail of destruction and casualties in its wake. The island nation's meteorological agency said that Beryl would not directly affect Cuba, but it would bring cloud and rain to a big share of the island. And now take a look at what else is making news around the world. For the first time ever, Canada has named a woman as the country's top soldier in its efforts to boost gender equality. Lieutenant General Jenny Kerrigan will take over as the Chief of Defence Staff on the 18th of July. She has served 35 years in the Army and commanded troops in Afghanistan, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Iraq and Syria. A man has tested positive for avian flu in the U.S. state of Colorado after experiencing mild symptoms, including conjunctivitis. The man, an employee at a dairy farm, had been exposed to infected cattle and recovered after receiving antiviral treatment. This marks the fourth human case of bird flu reported in the U.S. since the virus was confirmed in cows in the month of March. The U.S. celebrates the 278th anniversary of its founding on Thursday. New Yorkers got a head start on the holiday as they prepare to celebrate the country's Independence Day. The holiday marks the passage of the Declaration of Independence, which granted the original colonies independence from British rule. A new exhibition looking at the evolution of Barbie has opened in London as the famous Mattel doll turned 65. Barbie, the exhibition running at the Design Museum from 5th July to 23rd February, features more than 250 items from the Barbie universe, including an array of dolls showing her changing appearance, design sketches and dream houses. Still to come on DD India Live. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit Russia's capital Moscow for the first time since 2015. India's External Affairs Minister meets his counterparts from Central Asia and the United Nations Secretary General on the sidelines of SCO Summit in Kazakhstan. And a 9-year-old chess player of Indian origin is said to become the youngest ever person to represent England in any international sport.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar is representing the country at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Kazakhstan's capital, Astana. The summit will adopt an important document to combat terrorism, separatism and extremism, echoing India's stand on countering terrorism and radicalization in the Eurasian region. The summit will discuss an anti-drug strategy to counter the rising menace of drug addiction. Now, counter-terrorism figures high on India's agenda. New Delhi is keeping a close watch on efforts by some state and non-state actors to radicalize the youths in the Central Asian region. The Astana summit is being held under the slogan of strengthening multilateral dialogue, the pursuit of sustainable peace and development. Kazakhstan has also put forward major initiatives to create the SCO Investment Fund and a base of economic preferences. And Minister Jaishankar met his counterparts from Central Asian countries on the margins of the SCO Summit. These meetings, covering a wide range of issues from bilateral to regional and global, highlighted India's growing engagement with nations in the region in recent years. The minister met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi too. It was the first high-level meeting between India and China since Prime Minister Narendra Modi won a third consecutive election. The two ministers discussed issues related to an early resolution of their undemarcated border. They agreed to redouble efforts through diplomatic and military channels to that end. The Minister Jaishankar, in a social media post, mentioned that respecting the line of actual control and ensuring peace and tranquility in the border areas is essential. He said mutual respect, mutual sensitivity and mutual interest will guide the India-China ties. In Astana, Minister Jaishankar on Wednesday met UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and discussed global hotspots and their larger implications apart from the reform of the UNSC. In a post, Minister Jaishankar said, "Always a pleasure to meet UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. appreciate his insights on the state of the world, discuss global hotspots and their larger implications. He went on to say that he spoke about the reform of the United Nations Security Council, the preparations for a summit of the future in September, and prospects for a meaningful India-UN partnership. Minister Jaishankar also held talks with Tajikistan Foreign Minister Sirojuddin Muhyiddin to take stock of the bilateral relationship and cooperation on international fora. They exchanged views on the regional situation too. Minister Jaishankar met Belarus's Foreign Minister Maxim Ryzhenkov. He welcomed Belarus as the latest member of the SCO. During his meeting with Uzbekistan's Foreign Minister Bakhtiyor Saidov, Minister Jaishankar said he appreciated the steady progress in India-Uzbekistan ties. They discussed about ways to take it forward and to a higher level. The presidents of Russia and China met in Astana on Wednesday. The expected admission of Belarus to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is another push by both Beijing and Moscow to transform the grouping into a geopolitical counterweight to the influence of the US and its allies. Laura Westbrook reports.
President Xi Jinping and President Putin met on the sidelines of the summit in Astana, and in May the two leaders agreed to deepen their strategic partnership. Now attending the summit will be the leaders of Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, as well as the leader of Belarus, who will be joining as a new member, and the acting leader of Iran. Just last week, President Putin talked about creating bridges of communication, and he's also met with the president of Kazakhstan, where he's backed Astana's bid to join the BRICS partnership. Now, counter-terrorism will be a key focus of the summit, but analysts have said that the principal value is about showing that these non-Western countries are getting together. For the Central Asian nations, they will be seeking to balance ties between Russia and China and the West. None have publicly backed the war in Ukraine. And while Ukraine and its Western backers aren't attending the summit, having the leaders of China, Russia, Turkey and the UN there has raised the possibility of the war being discussed behind closed doors. In Hong Kong, Laura Westbrook, reporting for DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit Russia's capital Moscow for the first time since 2015. His previous visit to that country was in 2019 when he travelled to Vladivostok. He last met Russia's leader Vladimir Putin 2 years ago at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Uzbekistan. Jessica Taneja reports from New Delhi.
India and Russia maintain deep economic and political ties that have remained resilient despite the constantly shifting geopolitical landscape. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit will be closely monitored globally, not only for its bilateral outcomes on economic and military ties, but also the anticipated discussions between the two leaders regarding the Ukraine conflict. India will continue advocating for dialogue and diplomacy to resolve the impasse. India's foreign policy is grounded in the principle of strategic autonomy, bolstered by a long-standing partnership with the Soviet Union and later Russia. This relationship has supported India through critical periods, providing defense supplies, assistance during wars, cooperation in nuclear energy, fossil fuels, and the Kashmir issue. Since 2010, the India-Russia Special and Privileged Strategic Partnership has expanded beyond traditional military and energy sectors. It is built on a strong historical foundation and often sustained by necessities. Recognizing its growing international role, Russia has backed India's membership in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and called for United Nations Security Council reforms to include India. India values Russia as a crucial partner in its multi-alignment strategy, where New Delhi refrains from forming exclusive alliances with any major power, thereby maintaining productive strategic partnerships with multiple countries. In December last year, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar visited Moscow and held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. During his 5-day visit, 3 agreements were signed which included documents related to the Kundakalam nuclear power plants, a memorandum of understanding on pharmaceutical and healthcare cooperation, and a protocol on foreign office consultations. The Kremlin remains a significant geopolitical power that can help balance India's strategic concerns. It continues to offer diplomatic support to India in the UN Security Council and wields substantial influence in its broader continental neighborhood. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
India's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, on Wednesday said an existing free trade agreement has been of great advantage to Sri Lanka's exporters. Mr. Jha spoke at the inaugural dinner meeting of the Rotary Club of Colombo West. He said the upcoming economic and technology cooperation agreement between India and Sri Lanka would further strengthen the existing agreement. Bilateral relations between the two nations have been at their best with the recent visits of leadership on both sides. A Canadian citizen of Pakistani origin is facing extradition to India for his alleged involvement in the 2008 Mumbai terror attack. A U.S. attorney told the court that Tahavur Rana, who is sought by India, is extraditable under the provisions of a U.S.-India treaty. Benji Haya reports from Washington, D.C.
Well, this was an argument made during the closing statement before a US court where Mr. Rana has been appealing. The case put forward against him was that he is extraditable from the United States to India under this treaty that exists between the two countries, and that India has established probable cause to prosecute him for his role in the Mumbai terrorist attack that resulted in 166 deaths. Mr. Rana, who is currently in a Los Angeles jail, is associated with David Coleman Headley. He's one of the main conspirators behind that devastating and fatal 60-hour siege across India's most populated city, orchestrated by members of a militant Islamist organisation from Pakistan. Now, Rana was actually acquitted by a separate US court of charges directly abetting those attacks, but he was convicted of other terror charges in 2011. The 63-year-old's lawyer says he should not be extradited to a foreign country, India included, citing insufficient credible evidence. Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
On to sports news now. India's T20 Cricket World Cup winning team landed in New Delhi a short while ago. It was met with a thunderous applause and a rousing welcome by fans. India ended its 13-year wait for a World Cup trophy by beating South Africa in the final in Barbados. Narayan Singh has more.
The Indian cricket team arrived back in India today, triumphant after winning the T20 World Cup. Led by Captain Rohit Sharma, the team was greeted by a sea of ecstatic fans and a flurry of media personnel at the New Delhi airport. India ended their 13-year wait for an ICC Cricket World Cup by defeating South Africa by 7 runs to lift the T20 World Cup trophy in a thrilling final at the Kensington Oval Stadium in Bridgetown in Barbados. As the team stepped out of the arrivals gate, they were met with thunderous applause and chants of India, India from the crowd.
It's really a moment for us to cheer for, and bringing the World Cup India after 11 years, it means a lot to us.
I created this tattoo in last evening. I dedicated this tattoo for Indian team.
Fans waved the national flag, held up banners and cheered for their heroes who had brought the coveted trophy back to the nation. The atmosphere was electric with the sound of drums, music and jubilant voices filling the air. Captain Rohit Sharma, holding the glittering trophy, led the team out, acknowledging the overwhelming support with a beaming smile. India's triumph has not only ended a 13-year drought for an ICC trophy, but also ignited the passion of cricket across the country. As the celebrations continue, one thing is clear: the 2024 T20 World Cup victory will be remembered as a defining moment in Indian cricket history. DD India, Narayan Singh, New Delhi.
A 9-year-old chess prodigy of Indian origin, Bodhana Shivanandan, is said to make history as the youngest person to represent England at the Chess Olympiad in Hungary later this year. Bodhana, who hails from Harrow in northwest London, will join the England women's team. She is currently ranked 30th in England in the women's category. Bodhana had won all 3 chess world championships for the under-8 age group last year. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. You can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen now to download it. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.